Hello, my lovely ladies. How are you today? It is Tuesday. It is 6 o'clock on the East Coast. It is 5 o'clock in Austin, Texas, which is where I happen to be today. So, I am greeting you from sunny, hot, and humid Austin. Beautiful town, but it's been about 10 years since I've been here. So, it's cool to be back here for a conference, which means I am mostly seeing the inside of my hotel and the conference center. But that's okay. Been getting out a little bit to walk around the downtown area and whatnot, and Austin is still just a really cool town. So if you get a chance to head down to Austin, Texas, come on down, y'all. It's good stuff. So we're here tonight, though, for Training Tuesday to talk about drama. Talk about drama. There are so many ways that drama comes in and interrupts our day, our life, our mindset, all that stuff. There's so many good entry points. Today I'm really going to talk about just one of them because it's Training Tuesday. And so I don't have time to go into all the different ways we deal with drama tonight, but there was one particular angle I wanted to cover off tonight. So, welcome to Ditch the Drama. We're going to talk about the drama loops that happen here. So yes, there's drama that other people create and they bring to the table and they create chaos, and there's ways to deal with that. And some of the things I'm going to talk about tonight will actually help deal with that drama too. But the pattern I want us to focus on tonight is breaking the drama loop that happens here. Because this is what can sink us. The data shows, so there's a researcher, and I just erased her name off another sheet, so now I can't remember what it is, but I will find it if anybody wants it. But there's a researcher who has quantified the amount of time we spend in drama loops in our head. Any ideas how many hours a day we spend in drama loops in our head? And by drama loops, I mean like ruminating. When we replay the same scene over and over because we can't believe that just happened, or we're mad that it happened, or we're upset that we didn't respond the right way, and so we're replaying the scene going, ah! Or we replay the scene and we rewrite the ending for all the things we should have said that we only thought about afterwards, but we do it continuously, right? Over and over in our head. Any idea how much time do we spend? I'm going to tell you the answer, but you're welcome to throw a guess in. And hey, Jill, it's good to see you. Hi, Terry. Yeah, we all do that a lot. You are not alone, Terry. We do that. It is human nature, and that's where we go. Women spend way more time doing this than men, by the way. This particular rumination pattern is prevalent in women professionals, especially in the work environment. I mean, we do it in our personal lives too, but where we do this. Hey, Joyce, good to see you. 2.5 hours a day. They've quantified that we spend, on average, 2.5 hours a day replaying scenes in our head, here in the drama loop, creating our own drama internally. Now, I want you to just think about what that means. And actually, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what it means, because we are all subject to this occasionally, and some of us more often than others. It's a pattern. It's a pattern. It's a habit, and it's based on a very natural pattern, the way our brain is wired. But that doesn't mean we can't rewire it. And this truly requires rewiring. And let me tell you why. Back at the beginning of my career. Not super early, not super midpoint in my career maybe. Irrelevant. In earlier days, I had taken on a role at a startup company, and I was running their marketing, and I was doing it. It was me, and literally I had one person reporting to me. So we were a very small team, very small startup. There were, 9 of us, maybe 10 of us at the most. So not big. But we were doing some really interesting things in technology. So it was technology marketing, and this was at the beginning of digital marketing. What now is a whole discipline in marketing, digital marketing. It was nascent then. So Google had just come out with their advertising platform, Google AdWords, and I was doing all the marketing for this startup, and I had one intern literally an intern that reported to me, who helped me. And so, in addition to the Google AdWords that we were investigating and spending money on and developing as part of our marketing program, we were doing events and digital ads, right? All the traditional marketing stuff. But the Google AdWords being so new and not being the amazingly in-depth automated platform that it is today. So you got to go back. This is back literally 15, a little more than 15 years ago. It was very manual. It was a very manual process. At Google AdWords, I had to go in and I had to look at the word. I had to look at the metrics tied to each word. I had to do some of my own number crunching to understand how effective was it? How effective was our investment? Should I be switching words around? And the mandate from my boss was that we should probably be switching around our keywords and playing around with them like every other week, every 2 weeks or so. I should be changing things up, but I needed to do it based on the data, and the data was manual. So I probably spent easily, of my 40-hour work week, I easily spent half of it. Easily half of my day was spent going in and examining these AdWords and doing all the number crunching and the analysis to figure out which words were working, which weren't, what do we tweak, what's competitive, what are the leads we're getting from this, all that good stuff. And every time I would do this, I would have a little summary report of here's where we are today. So I would have a weekly report that I would turn into my boss, and then because I was doing this almost every day, I at least had a daily summary of what I had seen and what I was looking at, so what I was thinking about changing. My boss would come in probably 2 to 3 days out of the week. He would come in and literally stand over my shoulder and watch me as I was doing this analysis and putting numbers in a spreadsheet and trying to crunch them and trying to figure out, what's working, what's not. Stand over my shoulder, and then he would ask me to print out everything I had just done and hand it to him, and he would go away. But he would be standing there for like 40 minutes, and he'd be pointing at things and asking me to change something or do this, or had I thought about that and all of that. And I'm sitting here the whole time absolutely hating every moment, because I don't like to be micromanaged. And he's standing here telling me what to do and how to do it and pointing at this and pointing at that. And I'm like, listen, I am trying to do something here that requires concentration, because if you know me, you know that I am not a detail person. And this was very detailed work. This was probably good practice for me. It was very disciplined detail work, but it was detailed work, and that is not my forte. So I also wanted to make sure I didn't screw it up, because it was all about numbers and metrics and the dollars we were spending, and we didn't have a huge budget. We were a startup, so I was trying to be very careful. Anyway, he's standing over my shoulder, and all I can think when he's standing there is, he thinks I'm stupid and he doesn't trust me. He thinks I'm stupid and he doesn't trust me. That's the thought loop that was going on as he's pointing at things. And literally 2 to 3 times a week he would do this. And so it got to the point where I dreaded going into the office. This is pre-remote work. I dreaded the days that he'd come stand over my shoulder, and it would send me in this funk, so that I might spend 2 or 3 hours working with the Google AdWords. I'd hand him his report, he'd go away, but at that point my mood is shot. Like, I don't want to work on the events. I don't want to work on the ads and the graphic design stuff, because I don't want to do anything right now. This jerk doesn't trust me. He's micromanaging me. He thinks I'm an idiot. He thinks I'm an idiot, that I can't figure this stuff out for him. So what's he paying me for, right? These are the thoughts going through my head. And I would spend my days at the office, especially those days when he stood over my shoulder, repeating those thoughts to myself. I don't even know why I'm here. He doesn't trust me. I have years of experience running marketing campaigns. I know how to do this. I'm the most experienced person he could have hired to do the Google stuff, because I've been on the front end of digital technology since it came on, onto the scene here. So why is he babysitting me like this? And I was angry, but over and over. And then I'd go home at night and I'd complain. I'd complain to my friends. I'd complain to my husband, just all the things that I hated about this job. The assumption that I had, right, the story I was telling myself was, he thinks I'm an idiot and he doesn't trust me. And that blew up into all kinds of stories, because then I interpreted everything he did. If he questioned me about an event, If he wanted to know more about an ad campaign I was running, every question was turned into, but he thinks I'm an idiot and he doesn't trust me. So I became very defensive, right? I was always trying to prove that I was smart enough. So I became very defensive. So it impacted everything. And it made me really cranky at home too, by the way, because I was coming home in this foul mood. So my drama loop was, he doesn't trust me and he thinks I'm an idiot. And after a few months, I started at that job, and this decline happened pretty quickly. So I was probably 4 to 5 months into the job. And he pulled me aside and we went for a walk. And he basically said, I need to know what's going on because I get the sense that you're not happy. And I'm not sure, what we can do to address this, but I'd really like to understand what's going on. And I had that moment that we all have of, can I really tell him the truth? I don't want to get fired. Then again, I don't like this job, but I don't want to get fired. I have 3 kids at home, and I've got, I was still, even at the time I was married, I was still the main breadwinner. So I didn't want to take the risk, but also I didn't want to work like this. So after kind of dancing around it, I finally said to him, I get frustrated because I think you don't trust me. You make me feel like I'm an idiot when I'm working on the Google AdWords and you're standing over my shoulder and you're pointing at things, and I know what I'm doing. I know how to do this, but I feel like you're constantly looking for flaws. His reaction was interesting because I expected him to start telling me how, he was the CEO of the company and he knew more than me and he's just trying to make sure it got right and he was careful with the money, and that wasn't his reaction at all. His reaction was, what? You were the best person we could have hired. You know this stuff better than anybody. And it turned out that every time he asked me to hand him the printouts of everything, the number crunching I had done and the assessment that I had come to, and I'm handing him my report, he was taking it away to his desk. And yes, he was studying my reports and he was making comments and whatnot, but he was also comparing my reports to any and all reading he found online about digital marketing and Google AdWords and how to manage it. Not because he thought I was an idiot, but because he didn't know. He didn't know and he wanted to understand. And he felt like if he didn't understand my work and what I was doing, he wasn't going to be a good boss for me. So he was literally using my work as tutorials to help him understand Google AdWords. It had nothing to do with him thinking I'm stupid or I'm incompetent. It had nothing to do with him my thinking he was a terrible micromanager, which he was, by the way. But the minute I understood that his motivation for standing there was to understand what I was doing and why, not because he was questioning my decisions, but because he wanted to learn more himself about how to do this sort of thing and why it was important, and he would be more comfortable then, and this I understand, he would be more comfortable than saying, yes, you need more budget, or yes, we need to invest in this new thing, if he understood the basis of what I was doing. When I understood that was his perspective, shifted my whole energy. Oh, you just want to know more? Here are 3 other sites that I go to on a regular basis to learn more about digital marketing and what to do with it. You should check these resources out. Now we were collaborators, right? Completely different shift. My drama loops and my bad attitude shifted, not going to say it didn't shift 180. He was still a micromanager. There were still other issues, but it shifted a lot. It shifted a lot. And I felt better going to work. And I wasn't complaining as much at home. And I wasn't spending all that time in my head, which meant I could focus now on the other things that were just as important, because Google AdWords was not my world. There were events to do. There was an ad campaign to run. There was an intern to mentor and train. And now I could focus with good energy, with intent, on how I wanted to grow and build this marketing department and what I wanted this business to look like in the marketplace. Whole different mindset. So that's the kind of drama loop I'm talking about. The ones we create in our head because we've made an assumption or an interpretation. And it ends up killing 2.5 hours a day of our productivity because we're so busy telling the story and defending the story. We're too busy thinking, they don't trust me, they think I'm an idiot, this is a boys' club, right? I'll never get ahead, right? All those negative thoughts start compounding because we build a very big story around what this all actually means. When we don't have the reality. We don't have the truth. What we have is the action. What's real, what we know is real. What I know was real, what was real, see, he stood behind me and he asked questions and he pointed at things. That's what was real. And that sent me on a negative spin cycle of he must think I'm stupid, as opposed to maybe he thinks he's stupid, right? So when we are in this phase of the drama loop in our head, right, of this rumination over and over, we drain our energy, we drain our motivation, we lose our focus. We don't focus on the things that are important to do. We don't focus on the things that need to get done or that we want to get done, because we're too busy here. We're too busy here criticizing ourselves and criticizing others for this scenario that we just built a whole lot of story around. We don't know if it's true or not. So tonight I want to talk about how do we break that pattern. The pattern of when something happens, we immediately jump into reaction mode. One of the examples I think I gave in the promotion of this too, and this happened my entire career. You're in a meeting, it's a staff meeting, the whole team is there, and every time you open your mouth, stupid John from sales interrupts. How many times have you guys been interrupted? Like all the time, right? Women get interrupted, what is it, like 87% of the time in meetings when it's mixed, men and women? It's over 80% of the time we get interrupted in meetings, and it's always by men. What's the story we tell ourselves around that? That they don't value our opinion, that they don't think we're smart, they don't think we deserve a seat at the table, right? We make up all kinds of stories around that. So the next time that John from sales or Steve from accounting or my boss stands over your shoulder or interrupts you or takes some other action that gives you that initial triggered reaction of he thinks I'm an idiot, how dare he? Your first step to break the pattern is to pause, breathe, and assess. And I know we hate that. I know you hate that every time I come to you with, here's how we're going to change our patterns, here's what we need. It starts with a pause. It starts with a pause because awareness is 75% of it. Being aware of our pattern, being aware of the moment is a huge chunk of our ability to break a pattern. Now, you can be aware of the moment and still choose not to break the pattern, so maybe that's the other 25%. But until you're aware, until you pause, breathe, and assess, until you do that, until you work that into your automatic reaction, you're never going to get to the changing the habit and putting a new habit in place, right? So you picture this, right? You're at the staff meeting. John from sales interrupts you. You immediately jump to the conclusion of, he thinks I'm an idiot, and now I think he's an idiot. So before we spiral into the drama of why John's interrupting you and why he's an idiot and why everybody now thinks you're an idiot because John interrupted you, I want you to pause. Pause. The second it takes, and it's even half a second, right, that it takes you to recognize, I've been triggered. That's all you need. It's just that pause to recognize, I have just been triggered into a negative thought. And as you pause, I've just been triggered into a negative thought, breathe, breathe. Because when we are stressed, anxious, angry, upset, what do? We hold our breath. We hold our breath. And when we hold our breath, we literally physically increase the tension in our body. And that doesn't help us. That cuts off the oxygen to our brain and now we can't think, right? So pause. I am being triggered. Let it out. Take it in, let it out. It only takes a couple seconds. And trust me, if John's already interrupted you, you got a couple seconds. He's probably still going. And then assess. What are the facts here? The fact is that John interrupted me. The fact is I don't know why. The fact, the thing that's real, is he interrupted me. When we can break it down and break down that this is the fact and pull our interpretation away from it, in taking that breath and pulling those two apart, we now can respond consciously, purposefully, instead of that negative reaction. Because what's going to happen if you open your mouth and just react to John's interruption? You're going to sound offensive. You're going to be jumping all over John just the way he jumped all over you, and that is not how we want to show up as leaders. We don't need to mimic John's behavior to be a powerful leader, because John's just interrupting. That's not powerful leadership skills, that's just rude. But we don't know why he's being rude. So, your job is to pause, acknowledge you're in a trigger, breathe, release, physically release the tension. That is so important. And assess. What do I know? What are the facts? The fact was my boss was standing over my shoulder. The fact is John interrupted you. That's all you know. Take that perspective before you open your mouth, because instead of saying, John, I'm not an idiot, and going on, you can actually say, John, I wasn't finished. Before you go on, let me finish my thought. And you're stopping the behavior that happened. You're not layering judgment or interpretation on top of it. So step one, pause, breathe, assess. Step two, you've got to challenge the inner narrator. Now, in that moment, the challenge of the inner narrator is the assess what's real. If John's behavior, just like my boss's behavior, for example, is repetitive, John's always interrupting you at work. Okay? My boss was standing over my shoulder at least 2 or 3 times a week. Then we need to challenge that inner narrator, because the inner narrator always goes, the inner narrator, the inner critic, the gremlin voice, it always goes to the worst case scenario. That's how we're wired. Our brains are wired to do worst case scenario. Why? Because that's how it protects us. Safety, which is great, except in a staff meeting or when I'm doing Google AdWords, not really in danger, right? So it's old wiring, it's there for a reason, but it's not serving us in this moment. So when you play devil's advocate, right, play devil's advocate, pardon me, and challenge. What are 3 other reasons John could be interrupting you? Maybe John is just completely unaware. He just lacks self-awareness and is just all about John. And so that's what comes out. In which case, maybe you're not the only one John is interrupting. Maybe John is insecure. And John is interrupting you because he wants to be sure he's the smartest and loudest voice in the room. And if you said something that he can jump on that's going to make him look smart, he's going to do that. Maybe John really does think he has something to prove and a better idea. Maybe John just doesn't like you. Maybe, like, there's lots of reasons. We don't know what it is. So play devil's advocate. Play out what are all the different reasons John could be interrupting you. Because they're not just about you. There can be 6 other reasons. Play devil's advocate so that you can broaden your mind to say, okay, it could be John thinks I'm an idiot. We'll put that down as one, but there's got to be at least 2 or 3 other reasons why he might be doing this. Broaden your mind, because it may not be about you. Your mind always says that it is, but that's not always the reality of it. And then go look for the evidence. Is there evidence John thinks you're an idiot? Because unless John interrupted you with, don't be an idiot, Natalie, here's what's the real thing, then I have no evidence. My boss didn't stand over my shoulder saying, you're doing that wrong. I can't trust you to do this. Or don't be stupid, Natalie. Don't do that with the Google AdWords. He never said any of that. Look for the evidence. Now, here's the thing, is we will always find evidence to support our worst case scenario if we're looking for it. So you got to look for all the evidence. Like, is it true? Is John just interrupting you? Is this a vendetta against you? Or is this he interrupts everybody? Or does he just interrupt the women but not the men? Who knows? But see what the evidence is that supports and that debunks your theory. Look for both. And then embrace the open-mindedness. Embrace the idea that there are lots of reasons, and if I can be curious about his behavior rather than judgmental, if I can let go of the interpretation and the assumption and say, okay, I can accept, not just I can play devil's advocate and I can play around with what different ideas are, but I can accept that it could be one of these. Then we truly approach every interaction with an open mind that makes our relationships with other people much easier. We've just opened ourselves up to having real conversations. So maybe John doesn't feel like he has to interrupt us. He actually believes he can approach us in a different way. We show up differently. When we have an open mind about what might really be going on, we show up differently. If we've already taken the interpretation in our head, we've built assumptions, and we're already engaging with that assumption, which means if every time I interact with John, I'm doing it with the belief that he thinks I'm an idiot, I'm engaging with him in probably a semi-pseudo-hostile way, right? The undercurrent of my energy towards John is not going to be positive because I've decided he thinks I'm an idiot. If, on the other hand, I go to John with the energy of, boy, he's kind of insecure. And to feel that insecure that you have to interrupt people all the time, that must suck. I may not appreciate being interrupted, but I can go to John with a little more empathy about this behavior of his because I know it's coming from a different place, right? So see, our energy shifts depending on the motivation we attribute to the other person, depending on the energy we're carrying in that story in our head. All right, so step 3. So step 1, right, was the pause, breathe, assess. Step 2, challenge the inner critic, challenge the thought process that's happening, that automatic reaction. Step 3, you can take action. You can take empowered action. And hey, Sue, I see you popped in there. And hey, Sandra, you're exactly right. This whole inner drama thing is about second-guessing ourselves with the worst possible interpretation. Right? So step 3, take empowered action. You can do something about this in a positive, professional, leadership way and avoid the drama or get clarity on the drama. Either case, it helps you. So empowered action is about reframing your mindset, but it's also about putting your best leadership self out there. So one way you can do this is using your voice. Empowered communication. Assertive, empowered communication. Because when we're assertive, we're not mean, we're not bullies, we're not anything, we're assertive. So when John interrupts you again in the staff meeting, you use your grown-up voice to say, John, I appreciate that you have something to say about this, but I wasn't finished. Please let me finish, and then I'd love to hear what you think. We can say it, we don't. We often don't because we think we're going to be perceived as being the bully, or because we're going to be perceived as obnoxious or pushy or as the interrupter. When we're actually calling out a bad behavior, but we're not calling it out in a way. We're not saying, John, stop being so rude. We're kind of saying that, but very indirectly. What we're saying is that behavior crossed a boundary with me. I do not appreciate being interrupted. So, John, I can appreciate that you have something to say about this, but I wasn't finished. Let me finish, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts. That's all it takes. But we have to practice the communication. We have to actually say the words. We have to know this is my boundary, and this is what I'm going to say. Assertiveness demonstrates that we are confident, that we know what we're doing, and it not only shifts the dynamics in the room to our favor, internally, it shifts our energy to our favor, because you know what? We always feel proud when we stand up for ourselves. And there's nothing unprofessional in standing up for yourself when someone interrupts you. Now, another way to approach this would be, oh, and I should say, actually, I want to add to that. You can do that in the room. You can also do that individually. You could pull John aside and say, John, at the last 3 staff meetings, every time I've spoken up, you've interrupted me. And the story I'm telling myself is that you don't value my ideas or you think I'm an idiot. You could do that. You could be that direct and that vulnerable with John and get his reaction. What I said to my boss was, I feel like you don't trust me. You don't think I know what I'm doing. It makes me feel stupid and like I'm not trusted here. And get the honest reaction. So you can also do that one-on-one. It requires you to be vulnerable. Being vulnerable is a key leadership skill, as is setting your boundaries. Um, and Brene Brown is the one who puts the model out there with the phrase of the story I'm telling myself is, and it works. And the first time or two you say it, you might think it sounds constructed, not natural, but trust me, if you practice it, first of all, it's 100% true. And two, it can sound natural once you get used to acknowledging, I have these thoughts in my head. They're not always true. I acknowledge that, but here's what they're telling me now about your particular behavior. I'm asking you to tell me if I've interpreted this correctly or not. All right, so the other thing you can do that's all about empowered action, find your allies. If you've been on my trainings before about building our networks and leveraging influence, then you know your network should have what? 4 different roles in it, right? We have cheerleaders. We have cheerleaders all over the place. They love us. They love everything we do. And we love those people. We need them in our network. We have allies. We have influencers. And we have coaches and mentors. Those are the 4 tiers, 4 groups you should have inside your network. This is an opportunity to go seek out your allies and influencers and say, hey, I've noticed at the last 3 staff meetings that when I speak up, John interrupts me. And I would love your insight. Do you mind at the next meeting observing, is John just interrupting me? Is he interrupting everybody? Is there a pattern here going on? Before I address the issue, before I talk to John, I'd just like to see if I can get a better understanding of what's really going on here. Seek your allies could say right up front, I didn't notice John interrupting you, or John doesn't think you're an idiot, or no, John interrupts everybody. But seek your allies, because if you have more than one perspective into the situation, it gives you an opportunity, again, open up your interpretations. It could be something else. Someone else might, no, that's just how John is. He's always been that way. He's completely unaware. Or, oh no, that person said that off the cuff thing. It wasn't about you. It was because they had a fight with their wife before they walked in the door, right? We don't know what's happening with other people in their background. Seeking allies to help you suss it out can help you broaden your perspective. Now, this is not the same as gossiping. This is not the same as going around and creating drama. You're not going around the office saying what an idiot John is because he interrupts you and he interrupts everybody. You are reaching out to a trusted resource, a trusted ally or influencer in your workspace to say, I have a problem I'm trying to solve. I would like your help. You are enlisting help in solving a problem. I want to be very clear about that. We are not spreading gossip and creating drama. That's what we're trying to avoid. We are definitely trying to avoid the drama in our head because, why? 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours a day get wasted. Think about what you could do with 2.5 hours in your day. Cut it in half. Even if you say, I don't spend nearly that much time, 45 minutes tops. What could you do in 45 minutes? How much further on a project could you get if you just had focused 45 minutes to move it ahead? How much self-care could you get in? You could go for a run. You could go to a yoga class. You could go take a bubble bath. There's lots of things we can do in 45 minutes. You could go read a book or an article. Lots of things you could do that are so much more productive and forward-moving and bucket and soul-filling than drama loops in our head. So even if you reject that you don't spend 2.5 hours a day in your head, and some of you do, but even if you say you don't, trust me, any bit of that time you can claim back is time for you to be more focused and more productive on the things that matter to you, on that project that's going to help you get to the next level of your career, on that skill you want to develop, right, that gets you into a new job or to a new position or gets you a pay raise. It's more time you spend taking care of yourself so that you have better energy, more fun, more joy in your life. There's so much more you can do with that. So the next time you find yourself in that drama loop, somebody said something, done something, you've got a whole interpretation and story, you find yourself replaying a scene over and over, stop, pause. I've just been triggered. Breathe. Physically release the tension. Assess. What's real? What do I know right now? What is real right now? Step back. Challenge your inner critic. Challenge that voice. Okay, inner voice, I know you think that you're saying that John thinks I'm an idiot, but what else could it be? And then take empowered action. John, I appreciate you have these great ideas, but I got to tell you, every time you interrupt me in the staff meeting, I'm telling myself this story that you think I'm an idiot. I want to partner with you. Help me understand what's going on here. And let him tell you. Let him tell you. The whole goal here is we're building relationships and partners at work so that we're more productive, so that we do more, we be more, so that we're a team. We cannot do that if we're trapped in a drama loop that's saying that person thinks I'm dumb and that person is very aggressive and doesn't like my ideas. And right, if we have all these judgments everywhere, we're building a wall around ourselves instead of building connections and a network. So, you know what's at the root of all this? Boundaries. Yay! I was going to bring it to boundaries at some point. You knew that. Boundaries are a part of this. Our ability to understand what our boundaries are for how we're going to be treated, how we're going to be respected, how we're going to show up as a leader. Our boundaries around how we spend our time and how we use our voice in that assertive action, right? That's what it's all about. And lucky for you, there's a new workshop I'm going to do at the end of June around boundaries. In this workshop, I want to explore boundaries not just from the perspective of work-life balance, which is important and key, but also from the perspective of leadership. When we have boundaries and when we use them, we enforce them at work, we increase the level of respect and recognition we get at work. We create boundaries that allow us to focus our energy and our time and our attention so that we are moving the important things forward and we're not spun up in the nonsense stuff that is draining our energy but not actually helping us create the life we want. Boundaries help us improve our productivity, and they help us create more balance and more time for the things that we love to do. So if you are interested in the workshop, it's called Balance and Boundaries. We're really going to be focused on how this is a key leadership skill. This workshop is not just me talking at you like I do on Training Tuesdays, but is actually an interactive workshop. We're going to be doing the work in the workshop. So if you'd like more details on the workshop, drop the word workshop in the comments. I'm happy to share with you the details, and I would hope to see you there. But in the meantime, my friends, this is Training Tuesday. I'm so happy to see you tonight. I hope to see you at the end of the month in the Balance and Boundaries workshop. So don't forget to drop the word workshop in the comments if you'd like those details, where we're going to dig into why boundaries are such a key leadership skill, why you need them. And it will help us play back to this whole idea of the drama loops in our head and how we crush those drama loops so that they're not taking over 2.5 hours of our day. All right, as always, ladies, great to see you. Have a fantastic Tuesday. I will be back in my home state of New England, of Massachusetts next week. But in the meantime, greetings from sunny Austin. See you soon.